Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are untangling one of the absolute most frustrating mysteries of human psychology, and that is why do we so often fail to achieve our own goals? But more importantly, we're going to figure out how to finally bridge that incredibly annoying gap between our best intentions and our actual actions. So if you have ever felt like you're your own worst enemy when you're just trying to get things done, well, you're in exactly the right place.
I mean, it's the ultimate question, right? Why do we always sabotage our own goals? Because we know exactly what we should be doing. We know we need to save for retirement or finish up that tedious Friday report or actually go to the gym instead of just paying for the membership every month. The intention is crystal clear, but then when the moment actually arrives, we open up another browser tab, we buy shoes we definitely don't need, and we completely skip the workout. Why does this happen?
Well, this comparison right here brilliantly illustrates the core of the problem. It's a literal battle of two selves. On one side, you've got your present self. That's the rational, super ambitious you that confidently sets the alarm for 5 a.m. But then 5 a.m. actually rolls around, and your future self takes over. And that version of you? That version just wants the familiar, cozy comfort of the snooze button. Researchers actually call this present bias. And honestly, the most liberating thing you can realize here is that this isn't a moral failing on your part. It's just a structural glitch in how our human brains process time and rewards.
So, now that we've recognized the problem isn't a lack of character, but really just a quirk of our mental architecture, here is our roadmap of evidence-based strategies we're going to explore today to help outsmart our own brains. We'll quickly unpack the intention-action gap, move into unlocking true motivation, look at the growth mindset advantage, learn how to bind your future self, and wrap it all up with the power of habit stacking. Let's dive in. Starting right off with Section 1, the intention-action gap. Let's see how this conflict between our plans and our actions actually derails us. So, the crucial concept to grasp here is present bias. It is our brain's natural, hardwired tendency to weigh immediate rewards and familiar comforts way more heavily than future benefits. Look, the pain of not reaching a long-term goal is totally real, but it lives way off in the abstract future. Meanwhile, the comfort of procrastination, that is right here, right now. Our brains heavily discount the future, which is exactly why the thought, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow, feels so flawlessly logical in the present moment. To defeat that present bias, we really have to look at what's actually driving us. Which brings us to Section 2, unlocking true motivation, pulling from self-determination theory. So self-determination theory draws a really hard line between two types of drive. You have intrinsic motivation, which means you're driven by internal interest and just pure enjoyment of the task itself. On the flip side, you have extrinsic motivation. That means you're driven by external stuff, paycheck, getting a good grade, or just trying to avoid getting in trouble. Now, while both of these definitely drive behavior, the research overwhelmingly shows that intrinsic motivation is the real wellspring of lasting achievement. Because think about it. If you only act for an external reward, the exact second that reward vanishes, the action totally stops. But here's where it gets cool. Looking at this taxonomy right here, we learn a really fascinating secret. Motivation isn't just black and white. It's actually a flowing continuum. You can start all the way on the left side with absolutely zero drive, and then move through different levels of external motivation until you finally reach intrinsic regulation on the right. So what does that actually mean for us? It means we can take boring external chores and internalize them. If you can take a difficult task and align it with your own core personal values, you actually start to act with genuine purpose, even if the task itself isn't exactly fun. Okay, but how do we actually foster that internal drive? Well, the theory points to three basic human needs. Number one is autonomy, basically feeling like you are the master of your own destiny. Number two is competence, that deep need to build mastery and get better at things. And number three is relatedness, the human need for connection with others. Think about this in your own life for a second. When you build environments, whether at work or at home, that actively support these three needs, you naturally catalyze your internal drive. You literally stop forcing yourself to act and you start actually wanting to act.
Unlocking motivation is awesome, but what happens when things inevitably get tough? That brings us to Section 3, the growth mindset advantage.
Carol Dweck's research here is a total game changer. Just listen to this powerful distinction. In one world, effort is a bad thing. It, like failure, means you're not smart or talented. If you were, you wouldn't need effort. In the other world, effort is what makes you smart or talented. A growth mindset fundamentally rewires how you view struggles. In a fixed mindset, if you fail at a goal, it means you, as a person, are a failure. But with a growth mindset, effort and failure are just data points. They are the exact mechanisms that make you capable in the first place. It honestly all boils down to what we see right here. It's not how good you are, it's how good you want to be. When you're trying to bridge that intention-action gap, look, you are going to stumble. You're definitely going to hit snooze a few times. But if you value the learning process over getting an immediate, perfect result, you build incredible resilience. You unlock the absolute magic of the word yet. As in, I haven't quite mastered my morning routine yet. Okay, so we've got the right motivation and the right mindset, but our willpower is still finite. So what is our structural intervention? Welcome to Section 4, Binding Your Future Self. This is where we learn about commitment devices to completely outsmart ourselves. To really grasp commitment devices, we actually have to look at the earliest recorded example in human history, the myth of Odysseus. So he knew his ship had to sail past the sirens. These were creatures whose song was so insanely seductive that sailors would literally steer their ships straight into jagged rocks just to reach them. Now, Odysseus really wanted to hear the song, but he knew his future self would be enchanted and end up destroying the ship. So what did he do? He ordered his crew to tie him tightly to the mast and instructed them to plug their own ears with beeswax and completely refuse to untie him, no matter how much he begged.
The sheer brilliance of Odysseus was in his logic here. He made a commitment in the present, while he could still think rationally and clearly, entirely removing the possibility of his future self giving in to that temptation. He didn't rely on willpower at all. He changed the structure of the choice itself. And that's exactly how a commitment device works. It raises the cost of an undesired behavior before the moment of temptation even arrives. You're basically giving your rational present self the final say. So, how does this ancient Greek strategy actually look in the modern workplace? Well, here are 3 highly effective commitment devices you can use right now. First, public goal announcements. By loudly telling your team your exact goals, you attach social accountability, which pretty much eliminates the comfort of quiet procrastination. Second, pre-committed deadlines. If a massive project is due on Friday, promise to send a draft to a colleague on Wednesday. That forces buffer time. And third, automatic saving. Routing money directly to your savings before you even see it in your checking account entirely removes the decision to spend it from your impulsive future self.
Now, commitment devices are fantastic for big decisions. But how do we maintain positive, everyday behaviors without burning out our mental energy? That brings us to our final section, the power of habit stacking. The secret here is creating frictionless, long-term habits. And the absolute best way to do that is with this brilliantly simple formula. After my existing habit, I will start my new habit. See, when you try to build a brand new habit from scratch, your brain basically treats it as this giant extra task that requires a bunch of fresh willpower. But by anchoring a tiny new behavior to something you already do on autopilot every single day, you effectively piggyback on a neural pathway that's already established. Take a look at a few simple, highly effective examples. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or after I pour my morning coffee, I will drink a glass of water. Notice how incredibly small these are? A new habit should take less than 2 minutes to do. Creating sustainable, lifelong execution does not require heroic amounts of willpower. It just requires really smart sequences. And I want to leave you with this really surprising number, 66. Behavioral research shows that, on average, it takes 66 days to establish a new habit to the point where it becomes automatic. Now, the exact time varies for everyone, of course, but the key takeaway is super clear. Consistency always beats intensity. Massive, life-changing results come from small, repeated actions over time. You do not need to change everything in one single day, you just need to start stacking. Which brings us to our final thought to wrap up today's explainer. What is one small habit you can stack today to bind your future self to success? You now understand the psychology of motivation, the deep resilience of the growth mindset, and the structural brilliance of commitment devices. It is entirely possible to outsmart your own brain. So pick one tiny habit, find its anchor, and start bridging that gap today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will absolutely catch you next time.